Having some type of innovation hours, whatever you'd want to call it, where people have to share what they're doing with it is really helping us propel our use of AI.
What kind of things are you using it for? Are you using it to improve client retention, acquisition, SEO, everything?
I think it's an amazing tool as well. So, that's where we're really focused on AI at the moment. I love those types of public boards. They're kind of like sales boards, right? But you're putting them into a different aspect. So who's doing great at innovation or whatever the case there, I think that's a great way to get your team engaged.
What's your playbook for gaining market share when, let's just say, other agency owners are struggling?
Market harder. So that's the key, just market harder. So I don't want anybody to go through a recession, but I've gained the most ground in recessions.
Awesome. Cool. First question I've got for you, Rob. So is, as an agency owner, not really your agency, what way are you best using AI right now?
I would say we're using AI for efficiency just across the board. ChatGPT, I think the biggest really area that we're trying to focus on is to get everyone using it. So there's not anyone that is refusing to use it. And then having some type of innovation hours, whatever you'd want to call it, where people have to share what they're doing with it is really helping us propel our use of AI.
Awesome. And like, what kind of things are you using it for? Are you using it to improve client retention, acquisition, SEO, everything?
Everything. Everything. Yeah. It can be simple tasks like keyword research, making all keywords lowercase for formatting. It can be pulling things into Google Sheets. But yeah, just really using it for an efficiency standpoint. And then I would say writing copy, developing content strategies, content gaps, anything along those lines related to content. I think it's an amazing tool as well. So, that's where we're really focused on AI at the moment.
Awesome. And I love what you said about trying to get the whole team involved in it. I seen the CEO of Client Boost, I've forgotten his name, but he does a thing where he's done it with his team posting on LinkedIn, and then also the use of AI where they've like tried to gamify it and do like scoreboards and leadership scores and everything. And I think it's like people get bonuses if they hit a certain amount of points and stuff, which I think is really interesting to get your team involved in it.
Yeah, for sure. I love those types of public boards. They're kind of like sales boards, right? But you're putting them into a different aspect. So who's doing great at innovation or whatever the case there, I think that's a great way to get your team engaged.
Awesome. And in terms of Rob, your personal learning, I think I read in or watched a podcast where it said that you would like obsess over reading like Google's guidelines and like just like read it 10 times over. So
Right.
how has your learning approach changed with AI?
Yeah. So back when I did that, that's when I was first getting into SEO. And, I was reading it from a standpoint of trying to figure out what Google was wanting us to hear versus what they were actually saying and where the gray lines were in between it. So I was going through that very in depth. But I would say today, with what I'm doing with AI, summarize, of course, compare is super awesome. Taking two documents and having them compared and what are the differences. I think putting things like patents into normal terms that we all can understand is pretty cool. So those are some good uses of what I'm doing with it.
Awesome. Have you ever used Notebook LLM?
I haven't, but it's on deck. It's on
Yeah.
deck. I've heard some people talk about it. I believe even yourself, but yeah, it's on deck.
Yeah, for somebody that like obsesses over reading things like 10 times over, it's for me anyway, I prefer listening to things. And you can basically, I think you can put up to like 21 sources of like Google Docs, articles, YouTube videos, websites. And on the right hand side, you can basically turn it into a podcast. So it's like two radio hosts that are talking to you. And
Yeah.
there's a beta version at the minute. It's not that good, but you can like interrupt while it's talking and ask a question on whatever they're talking about. And they'll be like, oh, Rob is coming in. He's like tuning in today. He's asking a quick question. You ask the question, and then they reply on it. It's
Right.
absolutely crazy for learning.
Right. Yeah, I love all that. I really love the AI tools because as a CEO, you're trying to get a lot of things done and you're doing a lot of back and forth, maybe with team members, vendors, what have you. And the fact that AI can help you do it yourself and you can approve it, edit it, adjust it right there, just a super awesome, exciting time that I've embraced from the day that ChatGTP came out.
Awesome. And then the next question I wanted to ask Rob was more about client AI concerns. So I hope to God none of your clients are coming up with this sort of stuff, but I hear it all the time from people asking me on LinkedIn how to deal with it. So I said that I would ask it more on the podcast. And the question is how do you respond when clients ask why pay an agency when AI can do marketing?
Yeah, great question. I wouldn't say that we're getting asked that question. So AI is not a push button solve all going to implement it on your website and just flip the SEO switch button. So we don't really get specifically asked that one, but I would say they go deeper into questions such as why would I pay for you to write blogs when I can have AI write it? So there are some of those kind of siloed type of services. But at the end of the day, if you're writing your blogs with just straight AI, it's a recipe for disaster. We've seen, that happen. There's been back and forth of Google endorses it one day, they don't the next. I think that's just some confusion that's being put out there intentionally. So to keep us all on our toes, right? But yeah, it's just a tool. It's like Photoshop. Photoshop isn't going to build a website. I've played around with all the tools of SEO and one, and those have been around for a while. But without a strategy and without really knowing the goals and determining how it's all going to work, it's not just going to push button implement it for you and your site's going to rank. Matter of fact, it's probably going to tank.
Yeah.
Even tools like SEMrush that people pick up and it says get rid of these backlinks because they're toxic. Well, that's typically false, and if you get rid of them, your rankings are going to tank in a lot of cases. So I think you just got to be careful and navigate that conversation if you do hear it, because I know it sounds real sexy to the CEO that can just get AI instead of paying an agency retainer, because that's just money off of the bottom line, right? But that's never going to work out that way. Use it as a tool, but I think be ready to combat those types of conversations because you owe that to your client to tell them the truth.
Absolutely. I love that. Awesome. And Rob, let's switch up to more agency growth talk then. So you've
Sure.
been running Timmerman Group for over 20 years. You've guys
Yep.
gone through recessions, you've gone through COVID, you've gone through up and down cycles. What's been the one fundamental principle that kept you growing through those cycles?
Sales. So I think that gives me a pretty big edge that I have sales experience and also corporate sales experience. So the fact that you know that you have to be focused on bringing new business in the door as well as retaining it gives anybody who has that expertise an edge. I kind of relate it to it's not just being a chef that is an amazing cook. There's a whole different animal of running a restaurant for a long time versus being a great cook, right? The business skills, the marketing skills, getting people in the door, making sure that people come back, and food's not just going to do that alone. So that's always the core. I think that's the core of any business. If you don't have sales, you're going to be failing.
Awesome. And okay, so let's say the agency owners that are listening that have got, let's say, a pretty dry pipeline the last few months. What kind of acquisition channels or even retention methods should they be doubling down on?
I would say if you're having retention issues, there's a book I'm reading right now called Reset, and it talks about going to see the work. And I think that's what you need to do. So you need to see what's going on there. So don't leave any stone uncovered. What's being said, look at the reports, everything, like get in the trenches and figure out what's going on. But fix anything that you see that is completely off. But also, I feel like if you're having retention problems, you probably need to focus more on communication. As an SEO focused agency, we even do weekly communication because the monthly type of communication just is not enough. And I really just feel compelled to talk to our clients about great stuff that we're seeing. And typically, there's always something that we can find every week. And then
Awesome.
on acquiring side, a couple different things that you can do, but SEO is a big core focus of mine. PPC is a close second. Both of those are capturing demand, and there's a lot of demand out there right now. So if you can capture demand, that's probably the easiest way to acquire new clients because you're just showing up where they are going to be, right? Where they're looking, which is typically front page of Google. So various different opportunities there.
Awesome. I love that. And I love what you said about that you guys do weekly meetings. Again, we've had people on the podcast before that say, I think it's like the first 30 days is like the honeymoon phase, that when you sign a client that you should be communicating every single day or
Right.
like every other day. And I've had backlash come back on that, being like, isn't that a bit too much? And I feel like the verdict that I've come to is there's no such thing as over communication with a client. Like, let them ignore it if they are, but at least there's no buyer's remorse. At least they know what's going on.
Right. Yeah, if they're ignoring it, I just feel it's not exciting enough. So I always turn around and put that blame on us. If they're not reading the reports aren't good enough. If they're not interested in the results are not good enough. But once they start being good enough, you'll start getting those responses back.
Awesome. I love that. And okay, let's talk about your team. So Rob, we work with you. We see how much effort you and the team put into hiring and building out that team. What advice would you give to agency owners that have, let's say, gone through a few bad hires?
Don't settle. So it's very easy to just settle with the candidates that you have, and then you're in that 90-day phase, and it's kind of weird. And then you still need help, so maybe they get beyond that 90-day phase, and it just gets more difficult after that. So my wife, who helps us with HR, says the interview is the best it's going to be. So really taking that to heart and seeing, okay, how did they show up to the interview? Was the attire right? Were they speaking right? If they've got a camera ready to roll, did they complete the projects on time? All of that should really be considered because there's a lot of great talent out there, but there's also a lot of people desperate for jobs, and I feel for those people, right? But also, you just can't be applying to jobs that you don't know how to do and don't really plan on putting in the work to get to that point if you're not at that level yet. So really just don't settle and do what you need to do, the due diligence to get to the point of having a great contact.
Awesome.
Yep.
And I'm sure over your 20 plus years of running Timmerman Group, you've gone through cycles where you know that you kind of have to level up the team and you need to bring in like like better talent and better talent.
Right.
How do you kind of go through that transition?
That's super difficult. So that is super, super difficult because you're also connected to those people that you have. So we started as a web design shop. So when we were moving from $5,000 sites to $10,000 sites to 30,000 and on up, those are different teams a lot. So really giving, think number one, you need to give your current team the absolute opportunity to level up.
Yeah.
And if they can't, then you're kind of in this difficult zone of bringing in additional people, seeing if they can help level up those people, and hopefully they can. But at the end of the day, your $5,000 website designer is not going to be able to punch out $100,000 work. So sometimes it's just not the right fit. But that being said, I've got team members that have been with us for 10 years too. So I think if they want to level up, we're there. Like we'll buy the courses, we'll give the training, we'll do the test projects, whatever. We'll get them the mentors, whether that's an internal team member or if that's a paid coach that we need to hire. But yeah, give them all the opportunity that they can, especially if they've been with you, because remember, they got you to that point. So you got to consider that. But if they can't level up to what you need, then you're kind of faced with a separation.
Quick pause. If you're getting value from this conversation about scaling agencies and hiring top talent, I want to share something that might help you. Are you struggling to find A players for your digital marketing agency? We've got you covered. For SEO experts who turn rankings into revenue, head to SEOforhire.co. For paid media specialists who boost your bottom line, check out paidmediajobs.com. And if you're looking for foot rubs, you're definitely in the wrong podcast. All right, let's jump back into the episode. Awesome. I love that. And Rob, so on your website, you've got this whole flywheel approach.
Yep.
So my question is, how do you maintain a boutique feel when operating your flywheel approach
Okay.
to kind of keep efficiency at scale?
Yeah, great question. So we used to do the full funnel, and it was just really hard to illustrate that because I never wanted the funnel to stop. I wanted it to be perpetual. So we switched and came up with this flywheel concept for a couple different reasons. Number one, clients that typically come to us they're already in a good state. We take clients from good to great and from great to glorious. So if they're in kind of a grave state where nothing's going on, that's probably not the best fit for us. But the flywheel means that their business is moving in the right direction and it could be moving pretty quick. And we're going to make it move even faster. So we may apply in our flywheel, we have the different levels of demand, and one of them is capturing demand. So, like I said, we're big on SEO. So we may just apply SEO. We may apply pay per click. So we may end up only doing the capturing demand phase of that flywheel, Josh. But we are able to do those other services if they need. But a lot of times they'll come to us just for capturing demand and they've got the other things in house.
Awesome. Again, your answers are being great today so far, Rob. Perfect. And let's talk about recession proofing. So you obviously went through the stuff in 08, obviously COVID as well. How do you, like, what's your playbook for gaining market share when, let's just say, other agency owners are struggling?
Market harder. So that's the key. Just market harder. So I don't want anybody to go through a recession, but I've gained the most ground in recessions or things like the pandemic. So when that happened, I knew, hey, we're in St. Louis, Missouri. There's not enough business here for us to keep moving. So we just focused nationally. And that was a big project. So pay per click, social media, SEO. But coming out of that, we're ranking everywhere in the US, sometimes in the world for different services and industries. And now we're getting leads from all over the place. So it's rough when you're in that, but you just got to know that everything's going to turn around at some point. And when you do, you can either be on the bottom or you can be on the top. And what you do in between of those choppy waters is really going to make the difference.
Awesome. I love that. Perfect. Right. Let's switch up to kind of your personal journey throughout this. So, Rob, you've been running your agency for 20 plus years. What's been one of the most expensive mistakes and how did it shape your operations today?
Mm. Most expensive mistake I've ever made probably was thinking just because I can market it means I can operate it. So, what I mean by that is you get exposed to a lot of different businesses and you get really great at doing lead generation for clients or ecom, whatever. And you think that you can do that on your own. And I learned the hard way by thinking I was just a complete animal at bringing in lead generation for a roofing company. And I decided to do that on my own. And that was a terrible, terrible experience. So I think you got to know what you can do, but also know it's not as easy as it seems. So really stay in your zone and focus on what you're great at, which for me was being a marketer. So as soon as I turned off all that, oh, this would be cool and that would be cool to do this business, and I hyper focused on just being excellent at being a marketer, that's when things really started to explode.
Awesome.
And I'll add on one thing with that, Josh. The reason that I was having that shiny object syndrome is I really didn't know what was possible with marketing. I started doing 50K a month and I thought, wow, this, we're capped out. We can't do any more. It's not possible. Right. But I just didn't really have the insight to know that sky's the limit. So just hyper focused on being a great marketer, and then things started to explode.
I love that. And I know you're friendly with Chris Dreyer and Nathan Gotch and stuff. And I'd
Yeah.
say hanging about with them guys kind of takes away the whole ceiling as well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. For sure. Yeah.
Awesome. And we mentioned client retention earlier. So again, I feel like when people are thinking new business, they're always thinking, right, we need to look at acquisition channels, what can we invest in? But most of the time, if you've already got a client, you can either easily add maybe a service that you're capable of or even increasing prices. So, what's your approach to keeping major brands long term?
Keeping major brands long term, communication for sure. Like I said, the monthly doesn't work. If you're not hearing back from them, you need to look in the mirror. That's a reason. So I really try to just have excellent results, and really beyond that, undeniable results is what I'm going for. So let's say analytics, all that is not working that well, or you have a member in the C suite that just doesn't believe in SEO. When we start SEO, I want to make it so undeniable that something is happening that we just started, that there's no question about where it came from. So really, and today clients, they really deserve and they demand undeniable results. They're not coming to you for make it work a little bit. They're coming to you to take it to the moon. So that's just the level of service that you need to provide to keep them.
Awesome. I love that. Have you ever heard of the book Unreasonable Hospitality?
Yes. Yep. Great one.
I've I literally just started it there 3 weeks ago, and I'm obsessed with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, kind of just reminded me of that when you said that.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Being proactive and undeniable results, really being in it with them and their business, not settling for what you did yesterday and just trying to reinvent yourself all the time.
Awesome. And let's talk a bit more about personal branding. How has building a personal brand within the industry helped your business?
Oh, in the SEO world, it's pretty much everything. Like, yes, you can get clients and referrals and that sort of thing from it, but the fact that I can reach out to Nathan or Chris or, you know, Ferry in the UK or, anybody and say, hey, got this going on. Can you help? Do you know somebody? Whatever. That's really been amazing. And that wouldn't be possible without people knowing who you are enough that they can trust you to take their call, ask questions, play it back and forth, and really be a good partner and friend to them.
Awesome. I love that. And let's chat about agency evolution, Rob. Where do you think the surviving agencies will be in 2 to 3 years' time with the way that AI is advancing right now?
I think your agencies that are kind of hitting the quota for doing things, talk about SEO if you're doing the old two blogs, two links type of thing, and you're not, again, just getting undeniable results, those are going to go away. So I think they're going to go away by a landslide. So what's going to survive is really those exceptional agencies that are producing just undeniable results. And that doesn't have to be niche. It could be full service. It could be, we have a couple different niches that we play in. So it could be something like that. But really, you need to be excellent at what you do. There's no just kind of, they're all right. Those all right agencies are going to disappear.
Awesome. And okay, so let's say those agencies that are stuck at, let's say, 10 to 30K months.
Yep.
What kind of areas would you advise them to focus on?
Well, that's thinking back a ways for me, but I would say to get to that point, you gotta be conscious of where you are. So to get to that point, if you start reversing the math, okay, well, how am I going to get to 10K? Well, that could be an easy four of $3,000 retainer. But if you're doing that type of money, you're probably not able to sell those types of retainers. So you got to reverse engineer the math. If you want to get somewhere, where are you at now? Is that product exceptional? Could the market pay more for it? But once you figure out your product market fit and you have the product and you feel it's great and it's priced as this, then it's just a matter of marketing it, selling it, and executing it. But those three have to all align, because if you market it and sell it like a lot of agencies do, but they can't exit it, you're going to be losing that out the back door as fast as you're bringing it in, and probably faster than you can bring it in.
Awesome. And Rob, you've been running your agency for 20 years. Like you're definitely in the position where you could maybe bring in a CEO and let it just like run itself, or yeah, even like get a CEO to grow it. What keeps you involved in the business, and what drives you?
I do love it, and I don't just love it for the learning of SEO. And yes, I'm still obsessed about making changes and seeing how it affects Google and Reddit and all types and all the LLMs, and just seeing that something that you did made this piece of software that you don't have the rules for and nobody else does either react the way that you wanted it to. So I'm definitely obsessed with that. But I'm also obsessed with seeing branding come to life that we've done, seeing websites that are brilliant that our team's designing right now come to life. So I just really love the experience about it, not just learning it, but seeing it come to life. But probably the thing that propels me the most is the true, honest conversations about changing our clients' lives through sales and lead gen. Because to me, that's super awesome, and that's what those weekly communications really help us do.
Awesome. And I know we've chatted about this before in the past, but future of SEO, where do you see it going?
It's getting much more complex. I was a little shaky about what's going to happen with Google if they were going to lose market share, but I feel what they're doing now is pretty incredible. And I also don't see other people slowing down, though. So it's going to get real interesting about who becomes the search engine, because things can happen really quick. The MySpace to Facebook, right? Like MySpace was massive and then it wasn't, and then Facebook was. So, and now we got TikTok and different things. The momentum can change very quick. But I feel like Google's staying on top of it. Obviously, the stock price keeps going up. So that's a good signal that I look at. Like if that's going down, I know something's probably off, and that's not financial advice. But that's one thing I look at. But yeah, there's going to be some big players in the mix soon, very soon. I've been hearing about Apple producing a search engine for years. Now you're starting to see things like Siri. When you ask it things, it gives you the option. Would you like to search this in ChatGTP? So it's going to move quick. It's going to be pretty exciting. It's going to spread out. So, it's kind of like what social did. It used to just be Facebook. Then it was you have to be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all of them, right? So I feel it's going to spread out, and it's going to be probably harder to track where it's all coming from, just with multi-touch attribution because of that.
Awesome. And my last question for you is I know when we've had calls when you've been at your home office, you've got this massive library behind you. What's been your favorite book that you've read?
Um, I would say this reset book that I'm really reading right now is pretty exceptional. Especially in the times that we are in, where it's some choppy waters right now, right? and you get a little thinking like, oh, everything's wrong, but you just got to calm down, go see the source, figure out what's going on, and then build from there.
Awesome. Fantastic. Rob, if anybody wants to follow along the journey, where can they find you?
LinkedIn is where I'm pretty active, so you can find me on there. That's probably the best place.
Thanks for sticking around to the end, and I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're an agency owner that is wanting to scale and wants to continue bringing your business to new heights and doesn't want to put everything on pause for hiring and finding the best talent that's out there in SEO and paid media, well, that's something I can help with. I own a recruitment company that has specialized in both the SEO and paid media sector, and we work with 100 plus businesses. So I'm going to leave 2 links below. There's no big pitch here, but if you want to talk over strategy and hiring and how myself and my team can find you the best A-player talent in both the SEO and paid media sector, then please book in, and I look forward to talking to you. Thank you.